You are Locked On Phillies Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Philadelphia, on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, everybody, and welcome into the Locked On Phillies postcast for today's game. I'm Connor Thomas, filling in for Mark Farzetta. He's got a wedding. You normally hear me on Locked On Phillies Daily. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube channels of both Locked On Phillies and Locked On Philadelphia Sports, so you can find all this stuff. The postcast is a little new to me, so bear with me a little bit, but I can react with the best of them, and what a game we have to react to. We'll do that in 1 second, but I want to let you know our title sponsor for today's postcast is brought to you by Tax Network USA. Did you know it's never too late to resolve your tax issues with the IRS? Don't wait. Reduce your tax debt and get help from a team of licensed tax professionals. So call 1-800-549-1000 or visit tnusa.com/locked-on. Where do we even start with this one? The Philadelphia Phillies put an absolute whooping on the Arizona Diamondbacks. There was clearly a bit of frustration mixed in there after last night's loss, a loss that the team might not have felt like they deserved if Taijuan Walker pitched a little bit better, but that's last night's game. Let's talk about the fun stuff from this afternoon's game, and let's start with the man on the mound. Zack Wheeler was unbelievable per usual. We're going to have plenty of time to talk about the offense and the 12 runs scored in this one, but Zack Wheeler was perfect through the first handful of innings. He was really dominant, gave up one run, and was just shut down the rest of the way. Honestly, the Phillies' whole pitching staff was great. They only allowed 2 runs all game to the Arizona Diamondbacks, but when you could get a guy to go out there and go 7 innings, only allow 2 hits, 1 earned, walk no guys, and strike out 8, that's how you set the table for success, and that's what Zack Wheeler did today. It's why he's up there for NL Cy Young candidates, along with his teammate Ranger Suarez. It's why he's up there for National League ERA leaders. It's why he got the extension this offseason. It's why this guy's a monster and why he's the ace of the team. And he's also the stopper for the Philadelphia Phillies. When you get into a situation where you lose the final game of one series and the first game of the next series, you got a bit of a slide going on, that's how you stop it. You put a guy like Zack Wheeler out there on the mound, and not every team in Major League Baseball has that luxury, but the Philadelphia Phillies do, and today he did his job. And what was he doing so well today? The same thing he always does. Location was great, but location early was awesome from Zack Wheeler. He was pounding the zone, getting ahead early. He was not afraid. You know how you could tell a confident pitcher? Confidence in their stuff. When you've got a full count and you're throwing a breaking ball that ends up a foot outside of the zone because you know they're going to swing at it. You know your stuff's too good, and they got to respect the hard fastball too much, and maybe a little bit of extra zip on the fastball, a little bit of extra movement, a little bit of extra rotation today because of the hot air. It was like 98, probably felt like 103 out there at Citizens Bank Park today, and Zack Wheeler was certainly bringing the heat to match the weather. So he was outstanding on the bump, and he's just continuing to roll towards potentially a National League Cy Young Award. Now, the question is right now with the Philadelphia Phillies, as we get a chance to talk more about Zack Wheeler, who's going to get the start for the National League All-Star team? Will it be Zack Wheeler? Will it be Ranger Suarez? They're kind of the two in competition for it. How great is it to have that on the same darn baseball team? Couldn't be more excited. And by the time he was out of the game in the 7th inning, this one was pretty well wrapped up. The Phillies had already scored 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 runs by the time Zack Wheeler came out of the game. So not too much to focus on with Gregory Soto's outing, an inning worth of work from Soto. Perfect work. Jose Ruiz finishes things. I mean, it's pretty easy to compare Ruiz to a position player pitching for the Diamondbacks when you look at what happened in the 8th and 9th inning, but no complaints about anything on the pitching side. The craziest thing, the outfield kind of had the day off. Like, how impressive is that? Even on the best days for guys like Zack Wheeler and Aaron Nola and Ranger Suarez, the top arms on this team, you're going to see balls hit. And you're going to see balls hit hard at points. You're facing a major league offense that's had a lot of success lately in the Arizona Diamondbacks. But, man, balls weren't even leaving the infield. I think on the final out of the game, it was a pop fly to deep shortstop, and Kyle Schwarber, who was playing left today. I guess he wanted to go out there and get his steps in. I do also think it was an opportunity for Rob Thompson to say, hey, I know our outfield hasn't been producing. We're going to put Schwarber out there just to feel like we're getting some pop from our actual outfield spots, and then we're going to DH somebody else. So I kind of like the strategy. But anyway, back to that final play of the game. That pop-up could have easily been played by Trey Turner. But I think Kyle Schwarber had just been bored out there all day. So he calls him off. He makes the catch for the final out of the game. This is just easy, breezy, beautiful cover girl type of baseball for the Philadelphia Phillies. Does anyone remember those commercials? But I don't have much more to say about the pitching front other than now you have a great opportunity with Christopher Sanchez on the mound in tomorrow's game to go out and win the series. And this is the kind of game that Arizona will say, we're just going to wipe this one. We got another game. We could still win the series. But if you're the Philadelphia Phillies, you say, man, did we just absolutely take their confidence going into game 3? When you beat a team by 11 runs, you hang 12 on them, you have a total of 14 hits in the game. Like, that is the type of thing that takes the soul of a team in a series in June that probably feels a little bit hot to them. Even though they play out in the desert, they play in a building that gets closed up, is climate controlled. They probably don't want to be in Philly much longer, especially with how loud the crowd was today. You could tell the crowd was into it from Jump Street, as they should be on a day that Zack Wheeler pitches, your offense gets going early, and you're facing a team that took you out in the NLCS. And, oh, by the way, took a game last night that was pretty annoying. So that's where it starts. Normally, I would talk a little bit more about the defense, but frankly, not too much defensively in this game to even bring up. There was a nice play by Bryce Harper coming off first base and making a tag on a runner on an errant throw from across the diamond. Every time I watch him play first base, he seems more and more comfortable at the position. He seems like a guy that is just, well, he doesn't have to seem like a guy. He's Bryce Harper. So you know he's a natural athlete. But don't you kind of think when you see Bryce Harper over at first base now, oh, yeah, he just kind of feels like a first baseman. It's hard to even remember. He played right field and initially was drafted as a catching prospect. Like, you just think of him now as Bryce Harper, the first baseman, and it hasn't even been a full year since he's taken on that responsibility for the Philadelphia Phillies. So incredibly impressive by him, but that's more of an overview of who Bryce Harper is and what he's brought to this team. I don't know. It's not all that much to break down defensively for this game because the Phillies were so stone cold on the mound. And mainly when I say the Phillies, I mean Zack Wheeler. So his ERA drops again. He bounces back from a rough outing last time out. He did everything you'd expect your ace to do. And that's why this team has just won their 50th game of the season. It's one of the best marks to 50 wins, one of the quickest to 50 wins in franchise history. It's not the quickest anymore. They had a little bit of a drawback and a couple of slides there with some injuries in the past couple of weeks, but this team is still just as good as ever. They take out the Diamondbacks. They're going to have a great opportunity to win this series tomorrow. Coming up, we're going to talk about the offense. And while the pitching, there's only so much you can say about a game where you allowed 2 hits and shut down everyone. Like, there's only so many ways I could tell you Zack Wheeler was outstanding today. But there are a billion ways I can tell you how good the Philadelphia Phillies offense was in this game. They absolutely hammered Tommy Henry. And I know Tommy Henry is not a plus Major League Baseball starter. He's probably not even an average MLB starter. But this guy is not going to want to see the Philadelphia Phillies anytime soon. And we're going to talk about it coming up as we continue this episode of the Locked On Phillies postcast. First, though, let's talk about Stitch Fix. It's our first sponsor for tonight's episode. And if you're looking to upgrade your wardrobe, then you need to know about Stitch Fix. With Stitch Fix, you get a stylist who understands your style, size, and budget, and they'll do all the shopping for you. You don't have to go anywhere, do anything. It's the easiest way to get clothes that you'll love. I just give my stylist my size, style, budget preferences. I order boxes when I want and how I want. I don't have to do like a subscription. So they come and then you lose track and all of a sudden you end up with too many clothes. You run out of closet space. No, it's super easy. You keep what works and you can send back the rest. Shipping, returns, exchanges are always free. You know what's funny? I did Stitch Fix years ago, like 2-3 years ago, because I needed to redo my wardrobe. The only time I send stuff back is when I run out of space because They have sent me so many good things. I redid my entire wardrobe through Stitch Fix. I love all of their stuff. I love the process. I'm telling you, there's no easier way to shop for clothes like that. And we'll also cut you a good deal, right? Here's what we're going to do. When you go ahead and check out stitchfix.com/MLB, you'll get $100 off. That's $25 off your first 4 fixes for a limited time only. Again, that's stitchfix.com/MLB for $100 off. One more time in case you missed it. Stitchfix.com/MLB. Must redeem within 7 days of sign up. Offer does not include kid fixes. All right, y'all ready to talk offense? Because that is the highlight of today's game. I mean, I've seen Zack Wheeler do that time in and time out. And basically every time out, you expect that type of performance from Zack Wheeler. We're honestly taking him for granted if you use that mindset, but we've kind of gotten to the point where we've taken this pitching staff for granted, and that's the benefit of having a bunch of really good arms led by that man on the mound. So I like to get a little bit more excited about the offense breaking out. I had a feeling that this team was going to step up the next couple games against the Diamondbacks. I tweeted out last night, I think they're going to beat the brakes off these teams. You can book it. Well, it seems like I'm 1 for 1 now. I need them to not make me look silly tomorrow, but 12 runs would be in the beat the brakes off this team category. And the Philadelphia Phillies got on them early. Let's just start from the top in the first inning. The Phillies scored 2 in the first inning, take care of business by getting Zack Wheeler an early lead after he had a 9-pitch top of the first. And that starts with a Bryce Harper RBI single to score Kyle Schwarber, who got on base to start. Trey Turner moves up to third base, and Nick Castellanos gets his first RBI of the day. 4 more of those to go for Casty, tying a career high as a Philly with 5 RBIs in the game. But his first one was a sacrifice fly to right field. And you know what? A really veteran approach that Nick Castellanos isn't going to get a lot of credit for, because it's not the sexiest at bat. It's not what he did later in the game, which we'll talk about. But he just went ahead and found a pitch up in the zone. He could work to the backside of the field. He knows he's got Trey Turner at third, one of the fastest players in baseball. He pops it the other way. He knows he's getting a run out of that. 1 run in the first inning, great. 2 runs in the first inning with Zack Wheeler on the mound. That starts to put pressure on the Diamondbacks from Jump Street before most of the guys have even had a bat in their hands. So that's a great way to start it off of Tommy Henry. And then in the third inning, you get even more. And by more, I mean more feet put on this baseball by Bryce Harper. He unleashed a moonshot today. And when you see Bryce Harper go second deck, you know he crushed it. Like, I am going to see for the rest of my life in my mind's eye the clean, perfect Bryce Harper swing. You know how everybody can imitate the Ryan Howard stance, from the arm up to the fixing the sleeve to the dropping the bat perfectly in the backswing as he puts one into the third deck at Citizens Bank Park, and you'll remember that forever if you watched him play like I did growing up. Well, people are going to have that now with Bryce Harper and these mammoth blasts. But you know what was special about this one? This one wasn't down the line and over that first billboard closest to the foul pole ahead of the second deck. No, this was like a right center shot. It's only listed as a 427-foot home run. I'm going to call BS on that. It felt a lot longer if you were watching it, but that makes it 4-0. You're like, okay, the route is on. And before you even have a chance to collect yourself from the excitement of that, Alec Bohm shows some power too. He has it. He does have power. He chooses to be a player that does not trade strikeouts for home runs. He'd rather be a balanced hitter and take his chances when he can. That's why he's been such a great RBI guy. He is now second in the National League in RBIs this year to only Marcell Ozuna. If you forget who he plays for, that's Ozuna from the Braves. But Alec Bohm goes back-to-back with Bryce Harper. He's been a much more capable 4-hitter behind Harper, protecting Harper, than he was the last time these two teams faced off in the NLCS. Sorry to bring up the bad memories. So that makes it 5-0. And you're like, okay, we're cruising. This game's probably in a good spot. Wheeler, another shutdown inning. And then bottom of the fourth, Kyle Schwarber, his first double of the day. An RBI double that scores Edmundo Sosa. And you're looking at a situation where it's 6-0. And it kind of feels like the route is on at that point. It's not just, oh, this game should probably go the Phillies' way. It's this game might go the Phillies' way in a big way. And that is indeed what happened. After the Diamondbacks got one back in the top of the fifth, Nick Castellanos, he hit a ball to left field in a spot where you very rarely see baseballs go at Citizens Bank Park. To get the ball on the upper deck in left field underneath the huge new Jumbotron. Remember, they upsized the Jumbotron 2 years ago. You get it over like that bar hangover in, well, not the only bar hangover that people are going to have after a Saturday night at the bank like that, but no, the hangover over Harry the K's behind the left field seats. You get it up there and into that crowd. That's a nuke. And something people might not have caught. I only saw this because I saw a video on Twitter. You know how well he hit that ball? Nick Castellanos hit that ball, and before rounding the bases, had time to take his elbow guard off while he was watching it. Now, that would annoy me if I was a pitcher. Maybe that makes me soft. I'm like, if this dude's taking his elbow guard off, but I guess you can't be mad when you absolutely plate one and you let him hit a ball 428 feet. A foot longer than Harper's, if you do believe the StatCast numbers, which I guess we should. But either way, long story short, Nick Castellanos has been really good lately. He seems to really be coming out of that slump that he's in, and he made it 8-1 there. Bottom of the sixth. Are the Phillies going to stop scoring? Absolutely not. They owe the Diamondbacks 1 or 2 or a bunch. And Nick Castellanos had an two RBI single to left field that was just short, hits off the left fielder's noggin, which tough day at the ballpark, being down 8-1, letting the ball bounce into your head, and then looking up and the score is 10-1. And that is where really the offensive part of the afternoon ended. You might say, Connor, they scored 12 runs. Well, the other two came in the bottom of the eighth, and they were off a David Dahl home run off a position player, and it was like a 43-mile-an-hour pitch. Honestly, impressive. If you've ever played like slow pitch softball, you know how tough it can be to square one of those up, especially if you're not used to it. Could you imagine going from seeing like 94, 95, 96 every day to squaring up a 43-mile-an-hour lollipop? That's not even batting practice. That's almost as impressive as doing it off of a regular pitch in Major League Baseball. Okay, maybe not quite, but it's good for David Dahl, and he'll take it to bump those numbers up a little bit, took it out the right field, made it 12-1, a little extra salt in the wound for the Arizona Diamondbacks. Just listen to this box score, right? Listen to what these numbers are that the Philadelphia Phillies lineup put up. And there were a lot of guys because people got into pinch hit. So a bunch of names to go through. Schwarber, 2 for 3, RBI. Turner, 1 for 4, 2 runs scored. Harper, 4 for 5, 3 RBIs, a bomb, 2 runs scored. That's one heck of a day. Alec Bohm, only 1 for 4, but 2 runs scored and a home run. Perfect. Nick Castellanos, 2 for 3, 5 RBIs, the most on the team today. 1 run scored for Casty on that homer. David Dahl only got 1 at bat, had 2 RBIs with that home run. Bryson Stott, 1 for 5. Edmundo Sosa, the only guy that went 0 for, he did have a hit by pitch, and he ended up scoring a run. Then he was taken out. Whit Merrifield went to third base. X-rays negative on Edmundo Sosa. I'll say it again, X-rays on the elbow negative. So we don't know what his status is for tomorrow. We do know there's no break. So that is good news for Edmundo Sosa and anyone who is worried about him. He's still a very valuable part of this team, even though Trey Turner is back. Whit Merrifield, 1 for 2. He had a hit. Christian Pache, the only offer on the team without getting on base in any way. Or sorry, he walked. I apologize to Christian Pache. That's on me. My bad. I don't remember the walk, but it's hard to keep track when the merry-go-round is going the way it is. So him and Edmundo Sosa, the only guys hitless. Both of them got on base. And then Rafael Marchand, a big hit for him. He was in a situation where we just, I don't know, we look at it and we say, could you really use one? Absolutely. It doesn't necessarily jumpstart Rafael Marchand into going back to having a 4-hit night like he did against the Padres the other night. But you do like to see the kid gaining a little bit of confidence, and we'll take it, especially in a game like this. So everybody contributes. A lot of guys got in. A lot of guys got swings. Everyone seemed to be comfortable at the plate. Part of the reason that I told you that the Philadelphia Phillies are going to take care of business the rest of the series is because of the pitching matchups, and Tommy Henry showed that for today's game. But in tomorrow's game coming up, we're going to talk about a little bit of what to look forward to and how the Phils can build on that. You got another opportunity with a guy who was on the NLCS roster last year for Arizona, Slade Ciccone. His numbers aren't great. That's a guy you could go after and get. So we'll talk about that coming up as we wrap up today's episode of the Locked On Phillies POSTCAST. First, though, I want to tell you about Tax Network USA, our title sponsor. Here on Locked On Phillies Postcast, we pride ourselves on getting you the latest news for your team, whether it's the offseason, the draft, spring training, or the playoffs. It's year-round. And you know what else is year-round? Unfortunately, collection season. Just because tax season's over, it does not mean the IRS is going to stop coming after you for unfiled taxes. They do not stop. They're like the Philadelphia Phillies offense. The IRS can garnish your wages, levy your bank accounts, and even seize your property. So don't let the IRS target you. What you want to do is let the licensed professionals and tax experts at Tax Network USA go to bat for you. It's like how the Phillies offense went to bat today. I just got to keep using that as an example. I love the game today. But anyway, back to fixing your taxes. They've got over 14 years of experience, an A-plus rating with the Better Business Bureau, everything you need at Tax Network USA. They've saved their clients over $1 billion in tax debt. Whether you owe taxes, you might have complicated matters that require tax planning, or maybe you finally hit that parlay this season and need help correctly filing. Just call 1-800-549-1000. Numbers right down there on the bottom of the screen if you're watching the video of this. Again, that's 1-800-549-1000, or visit TN, like Tax Network, tnusa.com/lockedon. See the link in this episode description below for more details. All right, well, we basically covered what we got from today's game, but let's talk about what we've got in tomorrow's game. And believe me, sorry if this is not normally what happens on Postcast. I apologize. This is my first one doing this, but we've covered everything. So I want to look forward to how the Philadelphia Phillies could have a chance to win the series tomorrow. If you want a review of tomorrow's game too, you could do the Locked On Philadelphia Phillies Postcast, and I'll do a full episode on Locked On Phillies as well that you can check out. So a lot of content coming out through the weekend. It's an NLCS rematch. It's a big series, and today was a big win. So we're going to want to talk about it even more. So stay tuned to the Locked On Philadelphia Sports channel and Locked On Phillies channel. But tomorrow, the Sunday matchup, kind of a weird game. I don't know why exactly the Philadelphia Phillies are playing at 11:35 a.m. when normally it's a 1 o'clock start. But set your alarms, folks. If you have a long Saturday night ahead of you, make sure you're up by 11:35 a.m. because that is time for first pitch between the Phillies and the Diamondbacks. The Phillies now sitting at 50-26 after today's win. The Diamondbacks, 38-39, a game below 500. So thank goodness, folks, if the Phillies lose, this game doesn't count. We still doing that about teams under 500? Dumbest thing in the world. I'll give you some odds here. The Phillies are minus 195 on the betting line. They have a 69% chance to win, according to ESPN Analytics. They are the favored team in this matchup, and the pitching matchup is a big part of the reason why. Christopher Sanchez toes the rubber, and if you know his stats, it's because they've been flashed everywhere in lieu of his new extension. You got a 4-year extension, $22.5 million, by the way. That's an absolute steal. It may actually have been 27.5, whatever the case may be. That's a bargain for Christopher Sanchez, a great deal for the Phillies. And he's got a chance to prove it for the first time since signing that deal tomorrow. A 2.91 ERA coming into this, a 1.36 whip, and 77 and a third innings pitched. He struck out 66 guys. So the strikeout hasn't been his key, but he's been inducing soft contact, and he's only allowed 1 home run all year. He has allowed 24 walks. So we know that if he gets in trouble with control early, that could be a tough spot for Christopher Sanchez. Now, on the other side, when you're looking at Slade Cecconi, great name, by the way, not great ERA. He's got a 5.9 ERA so far this year, a 2-5 win-loss record. The whip's pretty low. It's 1.19. So what's going wrong? If you know baseball, you probably have a pretty good guess based on those numbers. But I'll tell you, he's only allowed 51 hits in 50 and a third innings pitched. He's only walked 9 guys in 50 and a third innings pitched, which I mean, it's more than you'd want from your top-level arms. So it's not terrible. He's given up 12 home runs in 50 and a third innings pitch. It's going to be another hot day tomorrow. I know it's a little bit earlier in the day, so the ball may not travel like it did today until later in the game when you get to the backside of noon. But still, 12 home runs allowed so far this year. That's why the ERA is high and the whip is low. You can beat them with the long ball, and that's kind of how the Philadelphia Phillies made their bones today, as they beat the Arizona Diamondbacks, not just by the long ball, but the long ball was a big part of it with Bohm, Castellanos, Dahl, and of course that Harper shot, all counting for the total for the Phillies. So who are we looking at to have big days tomorrow? Something interesting. Cecconi, righty, so you're going to see hopefully more your typical lineup that you'll see from the Philadelphia Phillies. I think they're best against right-handed pitchers. The statistics would show that they're significantly better when a righty toes the mound. And that means like Brandon Marsh can go out there and probably get the start in center field. And you could see Bryson Stott, no problem, no question that he'll be playing second base. Like that should be the lineup. I'd be surprised. I'll ask you guys this question. I know we got a bunch of comments rolling in. Do you think you roll it back and you say, hey, Kyle Schwarber, you must be good juju for us out there in left field? Do you roll Schwarbs back out for another start in the outfield? No, I don't think they do that. I think that was just a one-time thing to break up the monotony of being a designated hitter for the season long. But I don't know. Maybe they do something weird. I saw Rob Thompson, his first year as manager, play Matt Vierling at second base like 4 games in a row. So maybe Schwarber's back and left. I would expect him to go back to DH. But you're facing a righty. You're facing a guy that you can get. I'm seeing some comments on here. And Luis Dario says the D-backs had Taijuan Walker on the mound today. Yeah. Essentially, that was their version of who their worst pitcher has been with Tommy Henry. But Ciccone, not much better. I mean, that 5.9 ERA shows you can get him as well. I don't think that you're going to be in a situation where you have trouble with the pitching that the Diamondbacks throw out there tomorrow. So the other thing I want to get into is some predictions for players that have big days. I always do this on Locked On Phillies. I'll do this again on the Locked On Phillies postcast here. But righty on the mound, Harper's been red hot. Do I bet that Harper's going to go yard again? I bet he's going to have a good day. Sometimes he has them come in bunches too when it comes to the home runs. I think Harper's going to run into another one tomorrow. I would love to see it. You're looking at a situation where it's a Roku game. Does that technically count as like a national audience? Bryce Harper loves the national spotlight. Cool. Kyle Schwarber, really seeing the ball well. It is still June. It is still Hoagie Fest at the Wawa. So Kyle Schwarber could have a big day. But the guy that I'm really looking for to have a big day tomorrow at the Dish, 2 hits or more, Brandon Marsh. He knows the opportunity he has in front of him. With Johan Rojas being sent down and now being an opportunity for him to start in center field and be part of a platoon, but maybe earn more time. He's probably got about the month and change leading up to the trade deadline to prove he could be a significant player in this outfield and not struggle offensively like he has at points and defensively too at points. I believe in Brandon Marsh, but he's got to prove that faith correctly. And I know that not everyone believes in Marsh the way that I do. What I do know about Brandon Marsh for sure, his temperament, his type of character that he is, an emphasis on character, he's chomping at the bit to go out there and play baseball and actually start a game and get out there and just run around the yard like the big kid that he is. And he's probably also chomping at the bit to get 4 or 5 at bats. So I would expect him to be zoned in and ready to go and understand the opportunity he has ahead of him. Also put another righty in there. Nick Castellanos is red hot right now. People might not want to admit it because there are some people in this fan base that are like, Castellanos, he always acts so laissez-faire and cool and too cool for school type stuff. He doesn't want to try hard is like some of people's perspective on Nick Castellanos. That dude's still a pretty darn good baseball player. And he's been proving it at the Dish the past couple of games. I think he stays hot as well. Heck, maybe it'll go like today. And I could have just picked any name in the Philadelphia Phillies lineup, and I'll end up being right. I hope that's what happens again tomorrow. That would be my guess. It probably won't be another 12-1 win, but do the Phillies win comfortably tomorrow? Yeah, I'm feeling yes. I'm feeling it's a comfortable victory, 3 or 4 runs worth of margin between the Phillies and the Diamondbacks, and the Phils are going to take the series. Now, it's not the series that they wish they had. I think the one they wish they had was played last October, and it sucks to have to bring that up every time you hear the name of the Diamondbacks organization. But maybe this year this team is on a path to make sure we never have to worry about that again and finish the job this time out. It's not going to happen in June, but every game you win is a big one. And every time you see this team have a game like they do today, especially like without their best team on the field, JT Realmuto still injured, that makes you think about what the ceiling of this team is. They're an unbelievable baseball team, and let's hope they prove it again tomorrow. Wow, that went quick. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's my first ever Locked On Phillies postcast. Shout out Mark Farzetta, who does this day in and day out for you. He does great work, so make sure you're subscribing to the Locked On Philadelphia Sports channel so that you don't miss any of these postcasts. I'll be going back to regular old Locked On Phillies, but I would also urge you to check us out there as well. Check my work out on Locked On Phillies Monday through Friday. 30-plus minute episodes and chance to dive a little bit deeper into stuff that isn't necessarily just reaction to the game. So again, thank you for being along for the ride. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Just remind you one more time, and worry not, Mark Farzetta will be back for the next one of these. But I will talk to you on the next episode of Locked On Phillies, and that's all for today's Locked On Philadelphia Phillies postcast. We'll talk to you tomorrow after Game 3 of the series with the Arizona Diamondbacks. Peace, everybody. Go Phils.